Max Holloway versus Calvin Kattar takes place this weekend in the main event of UFC Fight Night Fight Island 7, Holloway versus Kattar, and I can't wait for this featherweight bout. You've got two top contenders at featherweight. Calvin Kattar recently rebounded after his loss to Zabit Magomedsharipov against Dan Ige and Jeremy Stephens. Two great performances. Now he's got his chance again to break into that top three and maybe earn himself a title shot. You've got Max Holloway also looking to rebound after two losses against Alexander Volkanovski, looking to get back in there. I don't know if he's going to be able to earn himself a trilogy, but if there's a change of the title, it'll be good for Holloway to get this win against Calvin Kattar. And even if he wins more than one, I think they will make an exception for that trilogy between him and Volkanovski because those fights were so close. I don't think there's a title shot for either guy on the line here, but it's still a massive fight because the loser of this one is going to have to really start reconsidering their career, because Max Holloway is only 28, but he has a lot of fight years under him, and he's taken a lot of damage as well. And if Calvin Kattar goes out there and beats him up quite badly, there's questions to be asked about how much longer Max Holloway can do this for, and can he rebound, or does he have to change a division to go up to lightweight and try things again there. But Calvin Kattar, 32 years of age, if he loses this one, he's going to have to take a big step back, work his way back to the top, because I like Calvin Kattar, but he's not a huge name like other huge names in that division. I think they're going to give the title shot to Brian Ortega against Alexander Volkanovski. Calvin Kattar does not have the most following behind him whatsoever, so I think if he loses, he'll have to do the routine of 2 wins in a row. And will he be 34 by the time he gets back towards a title shot potentially afterwards? I feel like this is a big fight. The winner is going to be relevant in the title picture. I think they're going to need one more win after this one against maybe the winner of a Yair Rodriguez versus the Korean Zombie. I know Zabit Magomedsharipov might be... I don't even know what's going on in the featherweight division right now, I'll be honest with you guys. It's a little bit of a shit show, I'll be honest. Brian Ortega, I feel like, is going to get a title shot, but you've got Zabit, the Korean Zombie, Yair Rodriguez. They all kind of need one more fight before getting a title shot as well. So we'll see what goes down. Maybe they end up doing the Korean Zombie Yair Rodriguez rematch and Zabit versus the winner of Holloway versus Kattar. Who knows what they're going to do, but let's talk about this matchup. I believe that Max Holloway is going to get the job done against Calvin Kattar. I'm on the Blessed Express. Once again, I was off of the Blessed Express for his last fight against Volkanovski. I thought Volkanovski would win 3 rounds to 2, and that's what he did in my opinion. Max Holloway, though, I think the Blessed Express is going to continue. He didn't get destroyed by Volkanovski. He didn't lose like a normal champion would, where it's like a changing of the guard, and this is the new era of the division, and Holloway can't hang anymore. Holloway's still the younger guy. He can add stuff to his game and make the improvements necessary. I still believe he could go on to become a champion of the division, of course, because Volkanovski's older than him. He's still got time on these guys, but he needs to make this one happen against Kattar. I think he will get the win against Calvin Kattar, mainly because Holloway's just beaten way better competition than Calvin Kattar. I know Calvin Kattar, and I think there's this narrative around Calvin Kattar that he's reinvented himself in the division, and I do agree with that at times. Calvin Kattar has definitely improved during his time in the UFC, but I think there's a narrative about contenders in general. Calvin Kattar beats 2 good guys, takes a step up against Renato Moicano, loses, goes back to fighting B-level competition in the UFC, beats them, and everyone says he's reinvented himself. Then he takes the jump up against a top contender in Zabit Magomedsharipov, loses, goes back to a different level of competition, beats those 2, he's reinvented himself. Now he's going to take on the top guy and win. I feel like it's a narrative that gets used around the contender quite a bit who has these losses in their career. I think it might just be the case, though, in my opinion, that Calvin Kattar is better than the rest, but not quite the best. And the best is blessed in the featherweight division, if not Alexander Volkanovski. I think Max Holloway is going to rebound. I also specifically like the fact that in the last Holloway fight, we saw him use a lot more kicks than we usually do. In fact, over the past 3 Holloway fights, including his previous one to Volkanovski and his fight to Frankie Edgar, we've seen him use a lot more kicks in general, which I really like seeing in Max Holloway's game massively. I think it's a huge thing. I think if he just went out there and tried to box with Calvin Kattar, it could be a rough night for him. So now that we've seen him add in some of those kicks that he used against Alexander Volkanovski, the spinning back kick to the body, the front kicks he was using, the head kicks that he even dropped Alexander Volkanovski with at one point in their fight, the leg kicks that he was using as well in that fight. He was going with Volkanovski on the leg kicks. He didn't want Volkanovski to completely out leg kick him, so he started going back towards that as well. I like this new Holloway that seems to be a little bit more well-rounded in terms of what kind of offense he's going to throw and what variation of offense he's going to throw, and I think that's going to help him against Calvin Kattar. I also want to mention that the Dan Ige fight between Calvin Kattar and Dan Ige was actually quite close. Watched it again. I think it was 4-1 Kattar. I could see an argument for 3-2 Kattar, but definitely Calvin Kattar won. But if Dan Ige can make things pretty close and even beat you on strikes in certain rounds at a very slow pace, Dan Ige is not the patient guy. Dan Ige is the guy who comes forward recklessly, throws hooks against you and tries to overwhelm you like he did against Edson Barboza in the 3rd round. But I thought Edson Barboza won that fight against Dan Ige. And other than that, Dan Ige has a split decision win over Mirsad Bektic. I thought he won that fight quite clearly, 2-1. But still, Mirsad Bektic on the decline right now in his career, I think we can all say, and I think the Holloway wins that he has in his career previously, it's not like he beat Aldo and then Aldo just went away. Aldo's now looking to get a fight that's going to get him in the title picture at bantamweight next. You know what I mean? Aldo's still here, beating good guys. And Frankie Edgar, after Holloway beat him, it was kind of like a sacrificial lamb at UFC 240. Just give Edgar to Holloway, have Holloway beat someone as the main event of a pay-per-view. We don't have any other title fights. Edgar's now in the bantamweight division. I thought he lost to Pedro Munoz, but still he competed quite competitively with Pedro Munoz in the bantamweight division. He's now a top contender there. He's definitely not done or chinny or chinless. I think a lot of the fights that Calvin Kattar has had, some of the finishes that he's had as well, the perfect elbow he landed against Jeremy Stephens was amazing. It was an amazing elbow, it really was. But before that, in that fight with Jeremy Stephens, Stephens was just walking him down, landing great shots, and outlanded him by a huge margin in the 1st round, and really was winning that 1st round until the very end of it before getting cracked. But Calvin Kattar does like to settle into fights, and I think he's going to have to definitely go hard in that 1st round against Holloway to steal it from him, because as the rounds go on, your chances against Max Holloway just seem to diminish, and I think he's going to really start to put it on Calvin Kattar in those later rounds. Volkanovski's a tricky kind of body type for Max Holloway to defeat, but I feel like a slightly shorter Calvin Kattar who's going to stand with him, who's not going to chop at the legs of Holloway the whole time, who's going to try and box with him, is going to play right into Max Holloway's wheelhouse. I think he'll get the job done here by decision. I don't see him finishing Calvin Kattar, but I definitely see him winning a decision. I want to mention this as well. One of the huge reasons for my prediction here with Max Holloway is the fact that I need to predict a way a guy's going to win. And I think if Calvin Kattar is going to win this one, it almost has to be by finish. He has to go out there and crack Max Holloway on the chin, because if you're taking Dan Ige to that close of a championship round fight over 5 rounds, he has that experience of 5 rounds, I understand, but that Dan Ige fight, if Ige lands a couple of good shots here and there each round, he can skewer those rounds over to his favour and maybe even win that fight. There were some close ones in that fight. Calvin Kattar got Dan Ige's respect early, and it seemed like Ige was just sort of hesitant to go into the power of Calvin Kattar in that fight, because Kattar hurt him in the 1st round, I believe. But Dan Ige made it close, man. And I don't see Holloway not winning against Kattar in a decision fashion, especially if Kattar shows up this way he did in his last fight against Dan Ige. If I'm going to see Kattar winning, I need to see him finish Max Holloway. I don't see him going 5 rounds with the champ, who has way more 5-round experience than him as well. Calvin Kattar has a broken nose. This is a thing. Every time I look at his nose, it kind of makes me like cringe a little bit, because I know it's going to get broken in this fight regardless of how quickly he might get Holloway out of there if he does win. That nose is going to be hit, and every time it does get hit with a solid shot, it breaks and caves in on him. Happened in the Dan Ige bout, happened in the Jeremy Stephens bout as well. I don't like that happened twice in a row. I think that's going to be a recurring problem with Calvin Kattar's career. And with a guy who hits you as many times as Holloway does with his opponents, I think one of them is definitely going to break that nose and cause a problem for Kattar. I like Calvin Kattar. I just don't see him finishing Max Holloway, because when you look at the finishes that Calvin Kattar has in his career, not against Dan Ige, guy in his youth, still got his chin with him, hasn't really been chin before in his career. Against Jeremy Stephens, he finds the KO. Really old fighter, been in the wars, been KO'd before in his career, but not for a while. He's got a great chin, don't get me wrong, but still, older fighter, had a bunch of fights, had a bunch of wars, way older than Max Holloway, especially in fight years as well. I mean, he's 28 and 17 overall. If that doesn't tell the tale of where Jeremy Stephens is in his career, I don't know what does. He's had a bunch of them, and they keep taking a toll on Jeremy Stephens. He did land that elbow, though, and it was an amazing one. I don't think Holloway's going to crowd his work enough, because he's a bit of a great range finder, as Holloway is. Jeremy Stephens is a guy who'll go forward into shots, take one to give one back, because he believes in his power. I don't think Holloway's going to crowd his work as much as Stephens does to allow that elbow to land from Kattar. You look at the other guys that Calvin Kattar has been able to KO in his career. Ricardo Lamas, That was after the Josh Emmett KO against Ricardo Lamas, which was a real career changer, in my opinion, because Lamas could take a shot. He was the bully. That was his nickname. He was the guy who went after you. Josh Emmett flattened him out cold, and then Calvin Kattar was able to get the job done and loosen that jaw up in the first round and finish him there. Then Chris Fishgold has gone on to lose to guys like Jared Gordon. He's not the best guy in the world. He cut a lot of weight to get down to featherweight. He's not amazing, in my opinion. He had a good record at the time, but they weren't really against good competition opponents. Calvin Kattar gets the job done against him. Ricardo Lamas, Chris Fishgold, two hunched over, shorter, stockier guys for that featherweight division. I think Kattar kind of thrives against that style of opponent. We saw that against Dan Ige as well. The taller guys with range seem to consistently give Calvin Kattar problems, including another TKO in his career, Shane Burgos. But we'll talk about other two first. Zabit, range player. Long, rangy guy for the division, tall guy, likes to box, actually boxed quite a bit with Kattar in that fight. It wasn't decided by the kicks of Zabit. He was in boxing range with Kattar, landing good shots for those first 2 rounds, and Holloway ain't going to slow down like Zabit does in that third, that's for damn sure. Zabit can't go 4 rounds to save his life. I can hear the dislikes already. Fuck it, it's true, he has no fucking cardio. But still, Zabit Magomedsharipov, tall, rangy guy with good distance management, able to get it better of Calvin Kattar. Another guy, tall, rangy guy with good distance management, Renato Moicano. I'd say Holloway has better distance management than Moicano. Maybe not as good leg kicks, which was a huge factor in that fight between Moicano and Kattar. I'd say Moicano has a far worse chin than Max Holloway, and Kattar landed a lot of shots on Moicano and nothing seemed to happen. I know Kattar has got better, but when you're looking for evidence here, it's not looking too good in the favour of Calvin Kattar, even in the Shane Burgos fight that he had where he TKO'd him. Little bit of a weird stoppage. I think it could have been stopped a little bit earlier, in all honesty. There was a moment you could have stopped it, but of course the referees in MMA like to jump in at the worst fucking possible moments so often. Shane Burgos getting back up to his feet. It was kind of like a John Dodson, Nathaniel Wood situation. Lucky it wasn't a title fight. I think if it was a championship bout or a top level bout at the time, people would have complained about that stoppage, but because it was 2 contenders on the rise, it's kind of like, yeah, give it a benefit of the doubt. He'll be back in his career, and Shane Burgos hopefully will be back if he finds a replacement for Dawodu or rebooks against Dawodu. But still, in that fight with Shane Burgos, tall guy for the division with range, Burgos was dominating the second round of that fight, and I'll tell you this, going into that third round of the Kattar versus Burgos bout, the narrative wasn't, Kattar's going to finish him here, or Kattar's going to win the fight here. The narrative going into that third round between Burgos and Kattar was, Burgos is turning the tide, Burgos is going to take over in this third round and maybe finish Kattar, because Kattar looked kind of spent in that second round. I think he got outlanded by 20 significant strikes from Burgos. Burgos was really good, of course, but still, another example of a tall, rangy guy with good distance management being able to give problems to Calvin Kattar in the stand-up. He bounces back in the third round. I just don't believe that he's going to KO Max Holloway, because I know a lot of people seem to be talking about the chin of Max Holloway. I don't think there's a single person whose chin has been questioned more that's never been knocked down or knocked out in their entire career than Max Holloway. I feel like the only narrative a guy picking Kattar can have is that Kattar's got too much power, Holloway's chinny now, or Holloway's taken too many shots. I don't see Kattar controlling him for 5. That is out of the question, in my opinion. The only way I can see someone picking Kattar to win is if he catches Holloway and this is the turning point and Holloway's just taken a bit too damage and this is the straw that breaks the camel's back. The story we see over and over and over again. But Holloway takes shots like a champ. He eats them well, like against Volkanovski, big power puncher for the division. Lands good shots against Holloway, and Holloway's like doing the spoon symbol to say that he's eaten it up massively in the lightweight division. Holloway was not too much bigger than he was in the featherweight division. It looked like he just had 10 pounds of fat over him, and Dustin Poirier was cracking him with huge shots that put down the lightweights in that lightweight division, like Justin Gaethje that people seem to say has a great chin. Holloway took those shots up a weight class against Dustin Poirier. Now he's had some time off. He didn't take as much damage in his previous fight against Volkanovski either, which I think is a good thing, because a lot of the time with Holloway, you seem to ask the question, well, he took a lot of damage in his last one and went to war. How's he going to do in this next one? Did he take too much? I think that's a little bit less of a factor now, that he didn't really take too much damage in that Volkanovski fight. He kind of just got outpointed here and there. I think Calvin Kattar is going to lose. I like Calvin Kattar a lot. Actually, I've picked him in all of his fights, I believe, so far in his career, other than the Zabit Magomedsharipov one. I actually said he would win the third round and looked like he was going to finish Zabit, but lose 29-28 because of the first 2 rounds. I think I have a good read on Kattar. Called the second round finish against Jeremy Stephens as well, but lose the first round. I just think this one's a little bit too much of a tall order. Holloway's got this one. The Blessed Express will reign supreme. The experience is there. I know it says Kattar has a reach advantage, but he's also a lot broader than Holloway, so not a lot of that is arm reach that he has over Holloway. We seem to see a lot of guys with the reach advantage over Holloway, but Holloway is so tall and rangy himself as a person, he can still hang with them in the distance. So I'm done sort of picking against Holloway because of a reach disadvantage or anything like that. His range management seems to be pretty good, and I think if Holloway can really start putting on a bit of pressure on Kattar, see what he has to offer in that first round, chop at the legs a little bit, poke at the body, then start to try and overwhelm Kattar, but with a little bit of education and not the winging shots of Dan Ige or the terrible stand-up of Chris Fishgold or the hands-down style of Shane Burgos, which some people say is bad defense. I think Shane Burgos has good striking defense, but still, always better to have the hands up where you can. Holloway is a good guy at doing that. He's very good at rolling with shots as well and countering back. I think if he keeps the pressure on Kattar, if Kattar breaks that nose, then Holloway's going to start to really put the pressure on, see a bit of a wounded animal, as Jeremy Stephens was doing to Kattar in the first round of that fight. I think he'll go out there and get the job done by decision. I think Kattar will survive, but that will be with a beating. I'm actually going to call a 10-8 round in round 5 or 4 here. I think Holloway's going to win 4-1 on rounds. One of those later rounds is probably going to be a 10-8. I don't know which one it's going to be, but I think Holloway's going to put on a great performance. I like Holloway here. Still a young guy, still adding to his game. I like that we saw him change his style a little bit for Volkanovski, showed that he's a little bit more versatile. I like his chances against Calvin Kattar. The odds just aren't juicy enough for me to pick Kattar here because I feel like they're not even that wide of odds now, and they're going to get a bit closer because I can see some people putting some money on Kattar, risking if Holloway's going to be over the hill a little bit by now, even though he's the younger guy, by 4 years. Craziness, I know, but still, I don't think the odds are quite juicy enough for me to risk a Calvin Kattar pick. I think Holloway's got this one in the bag. Thank you for watching. Like and subscribe. Click that button up there. Goodbye. I've got Max Holloway winning the fight 4-1. Championship experience. Toodle pip.